Please note this video touches on notions of grief and loss, discussion of mental illness.
So, living with Vacterl and mental health. Go watch Moira's story, Stitched. For my story, at first I wasn't sure what to say, even though I have and do struggle with mental health due to growing up with and living with Vacterl, because I'm not officially diagnosed with anything except an anxiety, I think. I've had to figure it all out mostly on my own. Not entirely, of course. There's like friends and then seeing mental health discussions being brought up on the internet and whatnot. But for my story, I did have thoughts of unaliving myself growing up from like 13, at least, if not younger. I don't really remember. Until, I know it was at least at 13. Until last year. I'll be 35 next month, and my mental health has gotten a lot better in the last year. As last February 2023, I started transition, which has helped tremendously, but I'd be lying if that made everything peachy keen. I'm still disabled, I still have Vacterl, and stress, and chronic pain, and it's really weird right now because how do I talk about growing up, writing notes, planning to unalive myself, because of being a lonely disabled kid with a rare disease, and that was definitely a huge part of it, if not the main part of it, while also mentioning I'm actually in a much better headspace now than I've ever been because of transitioning in my mid-30s, and that those things don't cancel each other out. Other than, I guess I just did. But it's complicated. Of course, that's my entire life, it's complicated. But I guess that's life in general. I have terrible anxiety that hasn't gone anywhere. That's for both medical reasons and other stuff. When I was in a house fire, the anxiety started long before the house fire. I've always been anxious as far as I can remember. But when I was in a house fire, I was saved just in time by my neighbor with a ladder, but I was in a house fire in 2012 at age 23, and after that I couldn't sleep because of the nightmares. I know that's not related to Vacterl exactly, but I told my doctor, who just gave me trazodone. I was on trazodone with a couple of dosage ups for 11 years. I decided to go off in September of last year, so just a couple months ago. I was weaned off by my doctor, and I did experience withdrawal anyway, and that was a bad few days, but I feel better now. However, that's not to say I didn't need trazodone before, because I can see that I did, and it did help me at one point. I didn't initially realize trazodone is an antidepressant, but eventually I did realize that and went, oh. It didn't solve anything, though, and I was still super depressed. I had to go into therapy in order to transition. In order to get hormones, a letter for top surgery. Legally, I needed a letter from a therapist. I am still in therapy at the moment, and while I kind of resent needing therapy in order to have a doctor believe I am trans, I am also not oblivious to the fact that therapy can be a good thing, and I have a lot of things that can be brought up in therapy, and it's a good thing and it's useful. Am I annoyed why I had to go to it? Yes, but at the same time, it's not actually a bad thing, so I know that. And I should have been in therapy God knows how long ago. So it is what it is. And I do like my therapist, who happens to be my third, because my first two left within the first year. Just left a particular place to go somewhere else, as far as I know. I liked all of them, but do think I get on best with the one I have now, so I guess it worked out. To be honest, yes, the only reason I'm in therapy is so I could transition, and that started in my 30s. So, I don't know what the therapy started. In my 30s, I don't know what to say exactly. I've had panic attacks and anxiety and paranoia and thoughts of unaliving myself, going so far as to write notes, but never attempted it, though I got close. And all these mental health issues as long as I can remember since I was a kid. At least from preteen, young teenager. Some of it is, I don't think I really remember being super depressed when I was younger. I still felt alone, but I don't really know when the thoughts of unaliving myself happened. I'm guessing around preteen, young teenager, because I know they were there by the time I was 13. So some of it is related to living with Vacterl, and some of it isn't, it being my mental health issues, because there's also abuse and queerness and whatnot. I have complicated thoughts on it all, and I know I'm a lot, and I'm still trying to work through it all and still live the best I can. So there's a whole lot of vagueness, I'm sure, with me and mental health. I tend to think a lot, just sit and think no matter what else I'm trying to do. Am I trying to read? Am I trying to watch something? Doesn't matter. My brain's going off somewhere else, and I'm rewinding that thing for the millionth time. I'm working on myself, though, and my mental health. It's a process. I have fears related to Vacterl. I was married when I was 25. We met and got together when I was 21. In February of 2021, just 6 days after I turned 32, my husband died. It wasn't COVID. He had been sick for a while and lack of health care because of America. And we had just moved into our own home, and my grandmother died of COVID in January, just 30 days prior, on January 17th. And they were the closest people to me and the only ones I knew of at the time who accepted that I'm trans and knew I wanted to transition. So a fear of mine is being left all alone. I know sometimes things seems like I go off on tangents that are unrelated. In my head, they're somehow related. So a fear of mine is being left all alone. I need help to survive. I'm not helpless, but I also cannot live all on my own. Right now, my mom lives with me. I'm terrified of something happening to her, not only because I love her and would be devastated, I'd also not be able to fully take care of myself. I'd be a mess, and I fear it'd end horribly. I'm terrified of truly being alone and being unable to fully take care of myself. That is my worst fear, and it's not a fear I don't see most people understanding. I'm certainly not alone with it, I know that. I didn't know that as a kid, but I know that now, and that is my worst fear. In regards, just because that would be a very horrible death. Like I said, I'm not helpless. I wouldn't die immediately. It would just be a terrible spiral. So, in regards to grief being mentioned, I have also said in my life that I grieve for something I've never and will never have. Being able-bodied and living without pain at all. You can grieve for something you never had in the first place. I've never been without pain. It may not be exactly the same as grieving a person, which obviously I know that very well, and that's something everybody will experience in their life. But it is still a form of grief. I grieve not being able to do sports or travel with ease, for not being so full of an anxiety due to my medical issues in public and daily living. I hate the fact my life revolves around the bathroom. And I know that's not even specific to Vacterl, because there's stuff like Crohn's and irritable bowel syndrome and whatnot. So I know a lot of people can relate to hating their life revolving around the bathroom. I don't know where to go with all this. I know it's a bit jumbled. I think I'm always jumbled anyway. I'm sure there's stuff I could mention that I can't think of right away. In January this year has been stressful, but that's my mental health story in a nutshell, I guess, for whatever it's worth. Thank you for watching. I'm always surprised at how long these things go on. I'm sorry.